right, Chris Petri here. Welcome. Thanks for coming by. As always, we're going to have a fun time painting this beautiful coastal scene with a lighthouse and a bit of structures along the lighthouse. These are the caretaker's quarters for the lighthouse. Really a lot of fun. Rocks. We're going to do rocks, ocean, water. We're going to do some structure. We're going to show you how to do a preliminary sketch to start off with pencil. This way you kind of get your start to the painting going really well with light pencil sketching to get everything where you want it. Then after that you can get in there and do your painting and you'll have no problem because you already have everything all set, ready to go for yourself. And we'll cover all the colors we're going to use, the techniques that we're going to use to have this painting completed. We'll cover the last bit of details as we finish up with our figures here and some of our railings and these fine details that actually make this a really beautiful painting actually. And we didn't do a ton of work for the details. In the very end of the painting, you'll see we do some very careful but quick and expeditious detail work, which works great. It looks really fun and fresh, and doesn't look overworked at all. And we again cover everything: the light in the picture coming from the right hand side across the scene, high noon light, so the light's high in the sky, raking across the picture. We have beautiful highlights on the structures. We have gorgeous water. We'll show you how to do the whole complete ocean and as well as the distant sky in the far distance. I don't know if you can see that here. I'm going to bring this down a little bit. So we kind of have more picture above this here. And then we show you how to make that really large ocean area and then as well the sky above. So really a fun painting to do. So come along. We'll get started just in about a second or two. Okay, we just saw the finished painting, so now we're going to get right into the process of how we're going to get to that point where we're at the end of the painting, we're excited, we're peeling off the tape, and we're seeing a beautiful, gorgeous finished painting for ourselves, a finished composition. We'll have a mat ready to go. We'll be ready to frame this. And if it doesn't come out great, but it comes out very good or good, halfway decent, let's put it on the wall. Let's tape it up on the wall in your kitchen, on your refrigerator, by your office desk, wherever you might have some other paintings you might have displayed of your work. You always want to keep some of your work, your best paintings that you're doing, your best creations. You want to kind of keep them nearby, pin them up, the good ones that are good, And this way you're always having some encouraging artwork of your own that you have to look at and kind of celebrate the good paintings and the good compositions you're doing and the good work you're doing. And the ones that don't come out great, don't worry about it. You just take them and put them in a box or a file, and you just keep them for, keepsakes. And maybe you refer back to them. Maybe in a couple years, you might say, oh, I'm going to go back and take a look at what I was doing a few years ago. And then you can look at your paintings that you've done, maybe a few years back or so. And that's always great to have for reference. So how did we get to this? Well, the first thing I did was I took my, I have watercolor block paper, but you can use any watercolor paper you have. And what I did was, basically, I just want to start from the beginning. I want to have a standard mat like this, which is an 11 by 14 mat. So I have an 11 by 14 mat. I want to make sure that when I'm painting, I make the painting large enough for at least this window, but I want to make it a little larger than this window. So this way, when I go to put the mat onto my paper and I'm going to be ready to trim the paper maybe and tape it to the back of the mat and frame it, I just want to make sure I have a little extra room so I can move that mat around and get just the right spot you might like. And you can also, if you want, sometimes what's really helpful is you can even get a smaller mat, something like this, so that if you find that you're not happy with some of the results in your painting in different areas, but you want to maybe just crop down your painting, much like a photographer would crop down a picture, maybe take a larger photograph, and then you cut it down and make it smaller. You could take some of your paintings and trim them down smaller, find the spot that you like that's just perfect in the painting you've done or your composition that you've created, and you can take it and crop it down, make it smaller, and then trim out all the outer information that maybe isn't so important or doesn't look so good. So that can always be helpful too as you're working. But getting back to how we got this, so we just took our large mat, 11 by 14. I just put 4 pencil dots in each corner of the mat, just a tiny little mark in each corner of the mat on my paper. So I have 4 dots now on my paper that go around the paper, all 4 corners. And then all I did was simply take each of those dots and move it out a half an inch. So I just took a ruler and measured a half an inch from those dots, half an inch this way, half an inch that way. So I went half an inch up from the dot, half an inch out from that dot. And then I did the same thing over here with this dot. I went a half inch out this way and a half inch out that way. And I did the same thing over here with this corner, half inch out this way, half inch out this way, half inch this way up, half inch out that way. And therefore, I put my tape down on those small dots, which are about a half an inch larger around the whole watercolor paper we have framed out with tape. So that gives us a half inch of play that we have extra before we go to put our mat on our painting. So that is just, so we have a little extra room, painting room. And then that's pretty much it. And then I just put down my artist tape, pro artist tape. I use, a couple different sizes. So I needed a little bit wider tape here. I use my pro artist tape 2-inch, or I think that's a 2-inch, I think, and this is a 1-inch pro art drafting tape. So I use drafting tape. Works great. Doesn't have a real strong sticking power, so when you lift it up, it doesn't tear the paper. So you'll be safe with pro drafting tape, or you can always use the painter tape you can get at the paint store. The painter's tape they use for trim and walls, you can get that at a painting store or a big box hardware store in your local area. So that's how we got to this point here with our painting trimmed out with our tape, which is very effective. When you lift off this tape, you're going to have a beautiful border around your composition in your painting. And the next thing I did was I'm working from a some copyrighted information, so I really can't put that on the camera, but you can certainly work from my painting because I'm going to change it around a little bit so that it won't be a problem as far as creating a painting from another picture that I'm looking at. So in any case, I'm just going to try to get a rough idea of where I'm going to put things. It's an ocean scene. You saw the finished painting, so you already know, and hopefully you have a way to either have another electronic device next to you, like a phone or an iPad, that you can have my finished painting up, and so you can see that as we're working together right now. So maybe you're using a laptop to watch this video, and then you can have your phone next to you set up, or your iPad next to you set up on the table, and then you can have that with my finished painting on pause. So you can hit pause in the beginning of my video or toward the end to work along and use that as your reference. Better off to paint from a watercolor painting than you would be from a photograph, so because you're just getting quicker to what your results you want to have. That's basically really great. Like, that's why I always tell everybody, please buy my book. I have a brand new book out, Methods and Techniques in Watercolor, and you'll see it in the description down below in this video. And I always put that in there because if you're working from my finished paintings in my book, you're going to actually be getting the direct result that you want. You're going to be matching the colors, the watercolor washes, the pencil drawings. You'll be kind of matching everything to what I've created. And this way you'll kind of automatically be using all the colors you need to use, the techniques you need to use. I cover that all in my book. So I always put a little bit of a plug in for my books and my book in the description below. You can check that out on Amazon if you like. And I have a lot of photographs of all my artwork in that book, and so you'll have tons of every kind of paintings, seascapes, landscapes, cityscapes, boats, flowers, still life paintings, portrait painting. Have a little bit of everything in there, and a lot of everything actually. A lot of paintings in that book you can work from. And then let's start here though. I'm looking at it. I'm going to make about. The information in this painting is going to be the lower third of the painting. So if we just say, rough estimate, just the, basic idea of, I'll put a piece of paper down here. So with our paper that we have right now, like this, I'm just going to say if I roughly divide the paper into threes, one across there and one here. So now we have 1/3, 1/3, 2/3, and 3/3, but in any case, 1/3. We break the paper down into 3 parts, horizontally, like this, vertically, I should say. Vertically, we're dividing it across horizontally, and then we just say, I'm going to make my subject matter in this painting the lower third, the main structures and things. We have a beautiful lighthouse, and that's what we're going to create here in this lower third. So just, So we kind of have the information here, the lighthouse here across, and then there's another building that sits along the caretaker's house, possibly there. And then we have a little bit of the hill and the rocks here along the ocean, and there's a little roof and some railings and things and some steps over here and more rocks. So that's kind of the painting. It's going to, most of the interesting, really exciting information is right here in the lower third. And then over here, we're just going to have the beautiful ocean water. And then eventually there's some sky way out here in the distance. So that's kind of the design we're going to use. The lower third is our main priority of where we're going to put the most important information in this painting. So I will work on getting that lower third. So I just do it roughly by eye. I don't really have to measure it, but you can measure it if you're kind of unsure. But an approximate's fine for myself, and I just put 3 hash marks, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 approximately. Let's see how close I got it, just for referencing. Let's see. Let's try this here. I guess we could use centimeters. We'll use inches, I guess. So we'll do it this way here. We'll say this window opening is approximately 8 inches, so it should be about 3, 6. Yeah, it's about 2.5. 2.5. 1, 2. So it's somewhat close. If you have an opening of, let's say if we had an opening of 9 inches here, it'd be 3, 6, 9. So I'm pretty much on the mark here. 3, 6, 9. And then I'll just start the pencil drawing, and we're just going to do a simple contour drawing. So I'm going to try to look at my picture across here, and I think the best thing I can do, and I think this is a great way you can actually have really good results with sketching your drawings, contour drawings, getting your drawings in, is maybe do a super light drawing first. So I might go with this, we'll call this a super light drawing that I'm going to do here. It might be a little bit darker than I would normally do. I want you to see it because I know sometimes it's hard to see the pencil marks on the paper, but I'll just try to do like that. So I got my horizontal line all the way across. It steps down a little bit over here. Then I'll add in the lighthouse is about here it starts, I would say, approximately. So I'll start to get the rough, again, I'm doing the rough shape of things. I'll get the details in a little while. So right where that step is in the foundation of the lighthouse, that's where the lighthouse actually, walls of the lighthouse actually end there. And then up on this portion of the is the actual lighthouse here. And then we have the light. Or actually, that would be here. So that's there. And then this goes up like this. Okay, so I'm just trying to get approximate, everything looking approximate here. Light pencil sketch right now. We're not doing a finished pencil drawing. We're just trying to rough in what we think we're seeing here. We're trying to get an accurate but light pencil line so we can change it if we need to. And we look at these different parts and components of the painting and make sure we try to get it as close as possible. So if I'm looking at this structure over here, which is the lighthouse, then I look down over here at the quarters for the lighthouse keeper. And I can try to visually see, are they about the same size and, the same mass? And I say, yeah, they are. They're pretty much similar in mass. So that's what I'd want to think about. So I wouldn't want to draw this really large, and all of a sudden I find out that this is smaller and this is way larger, too large, or the vice versa. So I just keep an eye on the scale of things, how large and small each of the main components of this drawing is. And okay, so then I have the second structure done here, the keeper's quarters. And then there's a window here. And we're going to keep this real loose and fun. This is like a composition to do, just have some fun. Maybe you don't want to consider this like you're trying to, like, you know, hit a home run with this, or, you know, make it this most amazing painting in the world. We're just trying to get a fun painting done, a nice, beautiful seascape, the cool ocean water. We'll put lots of blue paint on this paper for the ocean, and we'll have a lot of fun doing this. And again, I'm just trying to capture what I see. And there's another window over here, and there's a wall over here. So I'm careful to kind of see that there's a wall and a window here. So this is all concrete and plaster on these walls over here. And then over here it's open. So this is like a porch over here. Or yeah, looks like a like an open balcony of sorts. And then over here we have different things. Maybe we have some stairs here, like that. And then sometimes too you can make up your own information. Sometimes, you know, when you're doing a painting, you can create different changes in your painting. As long as it's not too, I mean, you know, it's up to you. You really could change around a painting as much as you want. You're the artist. You can create and change your painting around and do different things, whatever you find you might want to do. That's totally up to you. I'm going to go for pretty close to what I'm accurate to what I'm seeing, but I'm not slavishly following it, thinking to myself, oh, I can't make any changes from what I'm seeing. I'm fine to make changes from what I'm seeing, actually. And again, I'm just getting in that light pencil sketch. You can kind of see it. And what I'll do is I'm going to take a break, and once I take a break, I'll come back and go over this with a darker pencil line so you can kind of see. I'll retrace what I just did one more time with a darker pencil line, because again, sometimes with the lighting in my videos, it doesn't always show up that great with the pencil lines. And I did want to go a little bit light here, because if I want to adjust it, then I can just come in quickly with a kneaded eraser and erase a few things and redo a few things here and there. So that's why I like to do that first really light pencil sketch. And then after I'm done with that, then I can go over with a darker pencil line, or I might find that I really don't need to. Sometimes I'll go right in and paint right over the top of a light pencil drawing. So and I'm just going to do a few more. I just want to get these two. There's like two doors on each side over here. Or these might be windows, actually. Oh, these are doors, I believe. All right, that's good. Let's take a break. We'll come right back and begin to do a darker pencil line, and then once we have that in, we'll start painting. All right, so we are going to get back to our pencil drawing. And again, I said I would go over this with a darker pencil line just so we kind of have a little more better look at the pencil drawing as we go. So I'll start off, and the great thing about doing a really light preliminary pencil drawing is once you do that, you can go in and change a few things here and there if you need to maybe touch it up a little bit, and then you can go over with a secondary darker line, and then at that point you can start adding in other details that you really weren't too concerned about when you did your first preliminary sketch, because your preliminary sketch is just sort of like trying to get everything in the general area you want it to be. And then you do your adjustments, your counter adjustments with an eraser if you have to, just a little bit, to maybe get things fixed up a little better. And then you go over a second time with your contour drawing, which means we're just going to basically use our preliminary sketch, the first light sketch, as our base of operation, where we're just going to use that and kind of trace over that. But at the same time, we're looking at our reference material. So I'm looking at a painting across from me, which I really can't put on camera. And let's see. I'll just start going here, and I'm going to be putting in some of the details I'm seeing in that picture, the painting. And then I can get this a little more accurate. Now, if you want, you can actually just stick with your preliminary sketch and then start painting from there. And at this point, you probably maybe would just be watching this, but not really so much going over with a darker line. But I'm trying to just give you the options. So you have the options here. You always have options with my channel. When I'm doing my artwork, I always want everyone to realize you do have options. You're the artist. You can create anything you want. You can do spin-offs of what I'm doing in any direction you like. I'm just offering what I do to the best of my abilities, and then you can take it from there. So now I'm looking at the top section of the lighthouse here, and I noticed I might have actually made the lighthouse a little bit too tall because I added an extra section in there somehow. So this is where perfect timing here. I'm just going to correct some of my my lighthouse drawing. So this is where the lighthouse is more or less here, the base right under the light. And so I'm just going to kind of get the actually this would be, and again, this is really hard for me. Sometimes I get so confused. I'm looking at so many lines and squares that I realize this is actually the light here, and this would be the dome. So don't worry about it if things get a little bit off track once in a while when you're doing your artwork. Don't worry about it. You just adjust, counter adjust. And again, I didn't set out to make a wonderful, incredible painting here where I'm going to be like, just that's my goal. I got to have a great painting or nothing like that. I'm just doing a composition here. And there's it's a metal roof on top of the lighthouse, so it's got those metal seams in it. They put the tops of the lighthouses together with the metal in pieces, small strips of metal, and they weld the pieces all together, and that's why you see those little lines there. And then inside here you have the light, actual light itself, that's there. And then we have some steel grid or steel bars, panes, let's say, of glass that protect the light. The glass protects the light in the from storms and wind and anything airborne. And that's what we have. So I was able to counter adjust and get the light correctly now. And then here I see there's some dimensionality to the structure that the lighthouse is built upon. There's a staircase here, I think, going up like that. It's for the exterior. And I'm sure there's an interior staircase that goes up into the lighthouse as well. Multiple access points for the lighthouse. And I think that's pretty good all through here, so I really don't have to. I think that looks good. The doors and the windows look fine there. And then here going across, there's a line there, but I will go again with that darker line, darker pencil line. And let me do that too. Let me do the windows and these doors dark so we can kind of get the feel for that there. And there is some railings along this lighthouse structure, the building, but I won't put those in. I'll do that with the brush. Let's do that with the brush, if that's okay, when we're painting it. So we don't always have to put every detail in when we're drawing this. We're just trying to get the main idea of the drawing. And then from that point, we can get some of the details with our brushes and paints. Takes the pressure off too, sometimes, just to get the basics down with the pencil, and then after that we can do some more details with the brush if we care to. So that's a window there. That's like an open area. Looks like there's a... Sometimes I'll use my pencil to kind of shade in something. I can shade in these windows a little bit too, like that, if I wanted to, these windows and doors, just so I kind of know they're very dark. And this here, over here, there's some areas we're going to kind of melt together because there's a lot of shade and shadows in there. So we're going to kind of melt things together with our washes and in certain areas. And then here we have some bright sunlit areas of walkways around the lighthouse here. Looks like it's about to there, and then there's a slope down this way. And then this is the balcony over here, and there's more rocks over here. And then there's another, looks like a wall over here. Like that, there's a wall. And then there's another staircase over here. Like that. And I think that's good. So we kind of have a nice, good horizontal line going across the whole picture. Kind of in a downward sloping fashion with the rocks. Now we have lots of rocks along here. This is all on a rocky mountainside along the ocean. So I'm just going to kind of put some sloping pencil lines lightly, just to kind of get the idea of where the maybe some of the directions of the rocks and things are. But we're going to do the rocks of this scene very loosely. We're not going to get into major details. Again, things like rocks, I find better off just using the paints and trying to get a loose interpretation of rocks. There's so many details within the rocks, it would almost be almost impossible to sort of, we could never paint it exactly like we see it really in essence. So let's not try to create something that's almost impossible to recreate. Let's not fight with ourselves and with our artwork. Let's work around something. So if you find something looks really difficult in your painting, just make it easier to do. Come up with some ideas on how you're going to make an area easier and more simplified to paint or to draw even too as well. I see some good strong shadows in here, so we'll take advantage of that with some really good darks. There's another really good strong dark over here along this side. So we're going to try to now identify where the light is coming from. I'm seeing the shadows right now in the rocks as I'm looking at the rocks now, more in close detail as we're working. I'm saying, okay, now I'm starting to see some shadow patterns on the rocks, and that'll kind of give me an indication where the light's coming from. And looking at this scene, I can tell the light is coming from the right, coming this way across the scene. So it looks like it's from the shadows. It looks like it's probably like midday. Sun's pretty high up in the sky like this, coming across this way, the sunlight coming down this way. So that's kind of what we'll do. We'll make a little small insignia up here on our, we could use a magic marker, a Sharpie. I like to use a Sharpie. And I'll just come up here and make a light insignia like that. And that'll just help me to remember that's where the light's coming from on an angle like this from high up in the sky coming down across this way. All right, so we have everything pretty much good here. I am going to just take one more break, relax for a few minutes, and then I'll come back in and start painting. So let's paint together, get your paints prepped. I have my Extreme Beginners palette. Of course, this is an Extreme Beginners series video. With that, we realize if you're just beginning and it's maybe your first couple weeks, couple months, maybe you've even been working along with me for even like a year, let's say, but you've been working, intermittently. Maybe you only have so much time to work on your watercolors. I totally understand that. We all have busy schedules these days, and things are hectic, and we're always, have multiple things we have to do in a day, and some of us are working full-time. Some of us are full-time at having to take care of a lot of responsibilities. So let's really just say to ourselves, we don't maybe want to start investing all kinds of hours of time researching all kinds of paints and art products and all this kind of thing. We just keep it simple. We can get a pencil at the local, supermarket, these are retractable pencils. This is a Bic pencil, actually retractable, so you don't have to sharpen it. You just click it, and has at least 2 or 3 leads inside of the pencil, so it lasts a long time. And you have your Extreme Beginners Prang Oval 16 set, which comes with a brush, and we can use this one brush to paint the whole painting. And maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll just use our Prang Oval 16 watercolor brush that came with our set. See if we can maybe accomplish that with our brush that we have. Automatically, when we buy this set, it comes with the set, and we're really all set. And then all we need is some paper, some watercolor paper. You really can't do a watercolor painting like this on printer paper, but you can certainly practice techniques and things on printer paper to save a little bit of bucks on the paper. Paper is expensive, watercolor paper, and the better paper you buy obviously is a little more expensive than, let's say, the student grade paper and things like that. I tend to use the Fabriano Studio watercolor pads of paper. They're great paper and affordable for like student grade paper. I use that all the time. And then also too, if I'm really going to be doing some highly technical paintings, I might use the Arches and the Fabriano professional grade paper to get a little bit better results with the painting, because it does help if you have better paper. It makes it easier to paint, actually, a lot easier. But you still can make do with any watercolor paper. As long as it's watercolor paper, you should be fine. And again, let's get started. I'll just just relax for about 5 or 10 minutes to come back, and we'll start painting. All right, so let's get started with our painting, and the first thing I think I'd like to do is I'm going to try to see if I can find another brush over here. Let me see. I'm going to actually use my Simply Simmons brush, number 8. And I have a small sponge next to my watercolor pail. It's just so I can tap off a little bit of water as I work. I also use a tissue to take off some water when I'm working, so we'll use both of these methods to take some water off the brush when we're rinsing the brush off. Now the main thing I want to note here is let's do the alla prima method. Basically that means we'll go in, we'll get our darks in, our darkest darks in first, and then from there we'll work our middle tonal values and our lighter tonal values for this painting. And again, this is in the spirit of maybe we're out on location even. Let's pretend we're out in this scene, we're along the beautiful ocean, the coast, and we're maybe set up, we have our sketchbook in our laps, and we're in a nice comfortable lawn chair or on a nice bench, a park bench or something by the location. And we're just going to get some basic paint on the paper and focus on just getting maybe the few colors we might really be excited about in the scene. The dark tonal values that you see in the scene might look really interesting, like it's a nice contrast against the lighter colors of the ocean. So we'll kind of work this kind of angle with this. And so the first thing we'll do is we'll get some darks mixed up. We want to go with a very, very tiny bit of black, which I'll put up here. This black is very, very strong in the Prang set, so I make sure to just put a little bit out there to mix in with my brown. And I also want to mix in some blue with that brown. So brown, blue, even some red. Let's get some red. Let's get a nice dynamic dark in here. So we're using blue, red, brown, and a touch of black. And then I can also adjust and get a little more orange and red in there to make it a warm and cool. So you can almost make a cooler black or cooler dark over here with some more blue added over here. So that's a little bit of a cooler. You can kind of see that's more of a bluish purple. And then we'll leave this over here more of a kind of a reddish dark like that. And then what we'll do is we'll just pick some of that up. We'll dry a little bit off, the brush off on a paper towel a little bit, so we take some of the paint off. This way we can get in our doors and our windows here with these wonderful darks and not have too much paint on the brush. And then next thing you know, we're going way overboard with our dark door and window paint, and we're painting outside of the lines that we've drawn in carefully. So we did do a careful job painting the doors and the windows in this scene. We don't want to go right in starting out with a large puddle of paint that ruins the door or windows that we have drawn in here carefully. So that's the first couple of darks. Those are exciting. Let's notice how those really look good. And then there's some darks on top of the roof over here. There's some shadowing. So I'll get that in there over here. And there's even a little bit over here, some more shadowing there. And then there's some darker darks over here. So I'm going to try to, right away my approach is let me get all of the darkest darks I see into this first, right from the beginning, right when I'm just going in to start my first part of the painting. Let me find the darkest dark colors, or tonal values if you will, to start with, and I'm not going to worry about anything else. So right away I'm looking, and if you have my finished painting up, you'll see what I'm doing. You'll notice that that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm going in and getting all the darks that I can, that I see that are really super dark. So the rocks over here, there's some really awesome darks there. And that's a shadow going across here like so. And that's, again, a very strong dark. Blue. Some of that black, too. And that shadow kind of goes up there like so. And then there's some reddish orange for the rocks over here. So you can start to make your darks more dynamic with some oranges and reds. As you see, the rocks are orange and red and gold. There's some gold colors in there too. So I'll take some yellow up here and sort of work that into the mix. And since I'm doing that, let me add a little bit of that into the darks up here just to move some colors around the painting. Okay, and then we have, again, some pretty strong darks over here. And I'm just sort of trying to paint what I see. And then this comes up over here, a shadow there. And there is some really quite very dark darks over here on the side of the lighthouse keeper's quarters. And this, of course, is very dark over here. And again, I'm looking for those really good darks that I'm seeing. The most darkest darks of the picture, of the painting. And then some of these steps over here are dark. And that's what's kind of fun about the alla prima method. Your first mission is just to go in and get the darkest darks you're seeing, nothing else. So this way it takes all the pressure off. You're not worrying about everything going on in your painting. You're just worrying about the darkest darks, and you have to get those in first. And then it seems like it's a downhill, easy time after you do that, because then you're just working with lighter washes and you can take your time and you know you've got all your darks in place and they're all set for you. So again, I'm going in with all the darks. We did pencil this one in earlier. And another one there. And again, you don't have to worry so much. And then you can kind of think to yourself too, as you're painting and working at a good pace like we're doing, you can ask yourself questions like where can I keep my darkest darks? And it just seems that the painting that I'm working from just happens to the light in this picture just happens to look really good. It kind of works for us here. We sort of have darks that sort of all congregate right around this central portion of our information, our main subject matter. So this is where the eye is going to go. Whoever's going to view this painting, they're going to actually, their eye is going to go right to these darkest darks first over here. And then their eye, so if we're viewing this painting, our eyes will go right to these large darks first. Then they'll start to, our eyes will look around at the different darks going in each of these directions. But they'll sort of always remain over here in this central location of the painting, which just works out perfect for what we're trying to do. And we have plenty of paint. We mixed up plenty of paint as we were going. Then I'll take a little bit of, I'll do some splashing for rocks. But again, this is all we're going to do for right now. We're going to kind of hold up and stop at this point. We do have some more darks over here. So again, I'm going to just, all I'm doing right now, darks, just looking at where are the darks? Where are the darkest darks I can see? There's one over here on this post that's underneath the roof here. There's a small roof over here where the balcony is. And I'm trying to think, there's a tiny dark here under the roof. Very tiny bit of dark there. There's a little bit of dark over there. There's a little bit of dark there. So now I'm just kind of looking, where are the darks that I'm seeing? There's a little bit there on the roof. There's a little bit underneath these here. The catwalk on the lighthouse over there. There's some darks there. And I think once we sort of have this then I tend to make some other marks just to add to that a little bit. And I think that's good. I think we're going to take a quick break. Again, once we take the quick break, then we can come back, and as we come back and look at the painting, we can start to see maybe there's a couple other areas that we might have missed a dark or two, so we can work on getting those in if we see there might be something we left out. I maybe see there's a couple lines here with that's the steel on the steel grid for the lighthouse windows. And there's some more, there's a couple darks like that under here. And there's a couple really, really fine. And this brush is really, really nice. It's again a Simply Simmons round brush, number 9. It's kind of easy to find. It's got like a pearl finish to it, but this thing has a really good point on it. Really excellent point, and it's lasted a long time. I've been painting with this many years, and it seems to just hold up great. It's a synthetic brush, and synthetics are great if you're just starting out, as well as, if you've been painting a long time too. Synthetics can be a really great brush to use. And then maybe over here too, I see some darks here for the steps over here, like that. And where else do I see a few darks over here? I think I see one there, like that. All right, perfect. Let's take another break. And we'll mix up some colors next when we come back for our lighter tonal values. And we'll start building the medium and lighter tonal values in the picture. More colorful washes as well. So we're going to do some beautiful blue for the sky and the water. And then we're going to do some orange colors for the roof, clay tile roofs over here on these buildings. And some kind of orangey, looks like maybe there's some concrete, orange cement, or it could be brick pavers. I think it's orange cement, orange concrete that they used on this building over here. And therefore we can get in some beautiful color here. But again, we're going to just go with a light approach. We're just going to be like, take this as we're outdoors painting this, and we're just trying to get some colors, some basic ideas, and then we'll bring this back to the studio where we can take our time and do a larger painting, possibly like an 18 by 24 or a 24 by 36 painting. If we want to go really large and do a beautiful larger style painting, you can do that. We go out, we get some information in the field. So we're pretending we're out just doing some field sketching with our paints and our pencils, getting some colors, and then once we're done with that, we can just have it as a beautiful painting like this, composition, or we can even make it, enlarge it, and back in the studio and make it a larger painting if we want. So, but let's take a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll start working on getting some more paints on the palette to get the rest of our colors into the picture, and from there we'll be pretty much in really great shape. I always mention too, if you haven't subscribed on the right hand side below, please subscribe. If you enjoyed this video so far and are having a really enjoyable time and you find that this is good content for your watercolor journey, if you are picking up a lot of good things that are helping your watercolors to get better, I'm hoping you will subscribe and hit the thumbs up if you really enjoy this. And if it's your first time on my channel, I want to welcome you and say you're at the right place at the right time. So watercolor is a medium that takes a little while to learn. It's not an overnight thing. It really does take a little bit of time. Maybe it takes about a year to kind of get used to it. I hate to say that sometimes because I know we all always want quick results on everything, but watercolor is a medium that does take a little bit of time to get used to. But the whole way I set up my channel and the way I teach is to always give you the basics every time I get on camera here and work with you. And we work together on our paintings. I'm always trying to give you the very, very fundamental basics of what you want to be focusing on, and that'll actually help you to get good results quickly. So I don't want to see you having to start out with not great information, and the next thing you know, you're just not going to stick with painting. I want you to stick with painting, have a great time with it, and I know you have a lot of years of fun with it. If you just get those basics down right away, and that's what I'm going to do. Every video I will have those basics. So that's why if you subscribe, you'll always be notified when my new videos come out, and I'm making at least 2 to 3 videos a week usually. And this way you can get all the information. And even if you can't paint along with me, you could at least watch. And if you're watching, you're going to gain a lot of information. That information will be going into your mind over and over again, and then it'll be a lot easier to just pick up on it the next time you go to paint. All right, so we will be back in just a second. Okay, so we're getting started again here. We basically stuck to our mission, our plan of action, which is all the darks in first. We kind of looked over our painting or our subject matter that we're across from, or if we're just, let's say we're sitting at this scene, right in front of the scene here, outdoors, doing some plein air painting, and we're looking at this scene. We just thought to ourselves, let's get every dark that we can, the really, very, very super dark tonal values. Let's get those into the painting. And then from there, we can do our light washes. So right now, we've kind of done everything in the alla prima method, which is darks in first. Now we can kind of shift over and do some of a different, let's do what I would call, we're going to use both the glazing technique and the alla prima method at the same time. So I know many of you that have been with me for a long time, and again, welcome if you're just starting out here for the first time. But many times in my videos, I'll always mention what kind of technique I'm mostly using in the painting. This one we started with the alla prima method, but now we realize we're looking at things and we're here and we're contemplating this beautiful scene. And I'm saying to myself, I should probably, to get a really beautiful effect on this, is probably just cover the whole paper with like a glazing of orange, because there tends to be a nice, beautiful feeling of light in this painting. So I would want to add some orange and maybe even some yellow gold to everything. maybe even a little touch of red. So let's get a bit of orange and yellow, get ourselves maybe a little bit of brown. So we're kind of getting ourselves a yellow ochre kind of look, or raw sienna kind of feel, like that. And then maybe we'll add a touch of red. A little bit of this, it looks like alizarin crimson or rose madder. I think that's good. And then I just take the clean, fresh water. So I just emptied my water bucket, so I have fresh, crystal clear water, so that I can make this really light, orangey, kind of like an early morning or late afternoon kind of sunset feel. So this way we can do this. We can take this and we can prep this here. Then we can go in and get fresh, clean water. And then we'll just take fresh, clean water and just cover the paper. And then when we get down near the buildings here, we'll just go with less water. So we'll maybe just dampen the paper a little bit down here. And I'll go around. But I just want to dampen the paper a little bit. That's all I'm doing. I'm not flooding water onto the paper right now. I'm taking my water bucket like so. I'm taking my water bucket, getting my plenty of water on my brush, and then tapping a little bit of water off the brush on a sponge. And then I go in and get that little bit of damp brush into the paper here, so that we can put this orange, golden orange, yellow ochre-y kind of color into the picture to kind of give it a feel of just warmth. And I'm very careful now here. I can kind of see I don't want to smudge into that darker darks we put in. So that's just something we have to kind of remember to do. And I don't think it's too big of a deal if we don't get everything covered, but let's try to get most of it covered anyway. But let's not try to take our brush and go over the darker darks we just put in. So we wouldn't want to do that. Okay, and then we'll just get the orange. Like that, and just kind of, doesn't have to be perfect, just get some orange on there. That golden orange color, a little bit of kind of like a yellow ochre or raw sienna. You know, that warm feeling. Let's just get that across here. A lot of this is going to be water, actually. The sky's only about less than a third on the top of the page up here, so we have a lot of water that we have to paint in. But we're going to get this in first, that orange kind of color. And these are the rocks over here, so we don't have to worry too much about those. Those are going to be darker, medium tonal values down in here. There's going to be a lot of medium tones down here. We don't have to worry about that so much, but mostly up here in the sky area up here, and then the water is going to be here. So we're going to have a large amount of water showing here, and then the sky is going to be up here. So, but that's the reason I did this, was to get a nice coating of warmth on the paper. And I'm hoping that'll give the whole painting a kind of a harmonizing type feel. Okay, so now the key is, we always know, if we're going to put a large wash of watercolor paint on our painting, we have to make sure we let this dry 100%. So we're going to have to take a break now. I'll use my blow dryer. It takes me 5 minutes to blow dry this off, and then I'll come right back. If you're not using a blow dryer, no problem. You just have to wait about an hour. But I am using gummed block paper here. So gum block paper is perfect. It's almost like it's an automatic timer for you. When you put a lot of washes on your gummed watercolor block paper, you know it's dry when the paper becomes flat again and tight, like a drum skin. So that's all you have to remember. And we'll get started in just a second. I just need to use the blow dryer to dry this off quick, and we'll get back to work. Okay, so now everything is 100% dry. We use the blow dryer. Now we can continue working. Let's start working in our medium tonal values, our medium color washes. I'm going to go in with some orange here and some red. And a little bit of some of this previous mix we mixed here, just to kind of tone this down. Maybe a little bit of brown in here to tone this down a little bit. That looks pretty good. Maybe a little bit of red. So I'm just going to try to adjust my color. I want to get the roof color for the roofs of this building, and I'm thinking that looks pretty good. Let's see how we can. I'll rinse off the brush, take a little bit of water off the brush, and then we'll go in and we'll just start getting our roofs in here. These are orange clay tile roofs. along the ocean. Very durable. And we'll get this orange roof color right there. I left a little bit of light on this side of the roof here. It looks like the light's coming from this direction, and it's kind of catching that edge a little bit. And we'll do that there, and then we're going to have, we can kind of make our brush strokes and leave a little bit of marks that look like vertical lines like this going across. That gives us the feeling of roof, the roof, clay tile roof. So if we just kind of do that, make the wash a bit of marks on this here like so. I could put a couple marks in, just scratch in a couple lines like that. That's pretty good for that roof there. Then there's another roof over here like that. That looks pretty good. Then we also have some orange. It looks like they maybe had some concrete that was dyed orange here to match the roof. Lighthouses are pretty fancy a lot of times. They do a lot of thoughtful things when they're building these structures. They're kind of unique. There's not many of them compared to regular standard structures. So let's see what else we have. We do have some of that orange, it looks like, on these buildings here. So we can get that orange wash sort of working for us here. On these, there's going to be some orange, even some purple. Now what I'll do is, just to remember to add this purple in everywhere else in the painting, I'll put a little small dot of purple paint here. That'll remind me that I need to add it in other places, like down here in the stones and the rocks along the... See, if I add purple now up here, I want to start adding it in other places too. So that'll just remind me to do that if I forget. Toward the end of the painting, I just want to make sure I get some purple in here and there, just to make sure it's... And then there's some grayish blue. So I'll take this blue here. Maybe I need to spritz the paints. They're a little bit dry. So I'll just take a spritzer bottle just to moisten up the paints a little bit. And we have the blue here, like that. A little bit of this here too. That'll remind me too, maybe I have to add some more of that here and there, since I'm adding a new color. If you're adding new colors into your painting, it's best to maybe make a few little notes somewhere on your palette or on a piece of paper, just so you remember that you need to probably mix that around the painting a little bit. And so I'm making the lighter washes over here, and I'm mixing in that orange warm color in the washes on the walls here. These walls are light, they're not that dark, so they're kind of in between the tonal value of the roofs and the tonal value of the darks. So we're kind of doing those middle tonal values, as we call them, which are just a medium compared to very, very dark and extremely light, like this. In between here, this dark and this super light color wash we're putting on, you have your middle tones, which are all these here that we're doing now. So we just remember that we do have interesting colors that... So I'm taking some blues and purples and browns and oranges, and I'm trying to get all the subtle tonal values in this painting. And I add a little bit of splashes. If you oversplash somewhere, just tap it up with a clean tissue. Okay, and that is pretty good. Now we have some purple. Maybe we'll pick up a little bit of that. And I'll start to get in some of these. This is a little darker than this wash here on this wall. This is in shadow over here on this side, so we'll make that a little darker. This over here is a little darker. I can see that part of the building, and then there's some, it starts to get a little bit lighter over here. Then there's a little bit of light on the lighthouse there, which is white paper. We'll leave that. And then there's more shadow over here a little bit. And I'll put some orange in there too. So I'm trying to mix in my colors and shadows. Then there's some more shadows over here in this section. Pretty dark, but not quite super dark. It's and there's some more darks up here on this part of the roof here. So I'm just carefully looking at my subject matter and just making sure I'm kind of working with what I see. Trying to get subtle bits of color and tonal values. You can always blot up a little bit. Then there's some rocks over here. And that's black, and then some brown, and some blue, and some red. So we're just making that dark that we had before, right along the tops of those rocks there. Then I'll rinse off the brush, tap off the water on a sponge or a paper towel or tissue, and then just smooth out with a damp brush some of these other washes I'm putting in now. And what else do we have here? Shadow there. Okay, so we're looking good here. We have some good overall washes with medium tonal values. Light, super light tonal values, light washes, medium tonal value washes here, and we have our darkest darks. So we kind of have a really good balance of all the tonal values that we have in our picture. And at this point now, we're almost close to finish. We just want to do a little more details to the rocks here in the foreground. And then we're going to add in the water too. We'll do a nice beautiful blue wash for the water. And I think that'll be it. So let's, and so we'll continue on here, getting in the rest of our washes. I think what I'd like to do is probably do my water, my ocean, and I'm going to do that with this larger brush and see how we can get that done. So I'm going to use some fresh clean water. So I empty out my water bucket, get some fresh clean water now to do the beautiful blue ocean. And again, we're just doing some fun here. It's a, you know, a composition, and we're having a good time. So we'll get some of that blue that we've been using. We'll use a little bit of this blue here, which is a kind of a lighter blue with a little more green in it. Maybe we'll have a little bit of purple over here, down here in this portion of our palette, just so we have some purple to mix into. And we'll see how this goes. Let's get some blue ocean now. So I'll just start going in, going right across the picture. There's ocean through there. That's a balcony with... And you'll find these brushes are really nice. The square brushes, or flat brushes as we call them. You can get some great washes on with them. You can be really exacting with it, so you can see how I can really get right around these roofs really quickly. And you don't have to worry, these lines will go away pretty much. Most times you'll see the lines disappear. And even if not, that's okay. We're doing a composition here. You might find like, wow, hey, I like the look of some of these square lines, these square edged lines in my sky, versus just, you know. So, again, you can always do things differently. I'll go around these. The only thing is you kind of want to work kind of quickly here. You don't want to waste too much time, because you do want to kind of melt these all together as you're painting. All these washes here in this ocean. We're doing the ocean now. So you can kind of see it's better if we can kind of get these all working together like this. And then once you get some really nice dampness on that paper, then you can kind of rework that wash a little bit, and maybe you can kind of blend in those lines if you want. So you can always have a little bit of time to work, but you don't always have a ton of time to work. That's what I always say. You have to kind of work quickly with watercolor when you can. If you have a large brush like this, then you're really kind of ahead of the game, because you can really move quickly and get a lot of work done fast with the big brush like this. See how I kind of blended all those lines that we had in there that were kind of looking kind of very noticeable, those lines that we had. Now I've blended those all in. You can't really see them now, and then even when this dries, I don't think you'll see them. And even if you see some of them, that's okay. It looks all right. But it wouldn't look good if we took like a half an hour to do our ocean that we're doing right now. So the ocean goes all the way up almost to the top of the page, up here, and then it sort of fades into the sky. So that's what we'll do. We'll fade this into the sky. How do we do that? We're going to use like a purple color. So we'll take some purple that we had down here. That's what we'll use for the sky, and a little bit of orange. And that will sort of be our sky in the distance up here. So purple and orange should kind of give us that grayish, lighter tonal value. We don't want to make it blue. And that will sort of give us that feeling of the sky meeting up with the ocean in the far distance back here in the painting. But it doesn't have to be perfect. But I think that does look good. Now what we'll have to do is let this dry now. We can take a break. It's, you know, kind of stressful doing a big wash like that. You kind of get a little bit nervy with it, and you have to muscle through it. But once we get that in, then we're fine. Now we can just finish up the foreground with the rocks and a couple details, and we'll be all set. We'll have this all completed. So again, I hope you're having a fun time with me here. Let's take another break quick just to make sure we let this dry, and then we'll start working on the rest of the rocks. We'll get the rest of the foreground completed, and we will go in and get a couple minor details on the structures, just to kind of really give it a little bit of that extra touch of interesting detail that you kind of need just to finish up the painting to make it look really, really beautiful. Okay, so we'll be right back. Okay, we're going to get started again. I'm just going to do a quick setting on my light here. I have a large lamp that I have over the top of my table. I just want to see what it looks like if I turn it down just a little bit. Okay, I turned my light down just a little bit. I want to see how that's going to look on the finished video. So let's get back into the rock areas, and we're going to do brown, yellow, orange. We're going to take some blue in there, and then up here maybe we'll do some black, so we can get kind of like a good mixture of medium tonal values, warms, some red. We'll put the red over here, an orange like that. So that should look pretty good. Good mixture. And then I'm just going to do some splashing. There is going to be some darks here and there. So I'm going to try to look at my reference picture. Most of all, though, I see a lot of orange and reds, so I'm going to probably try to, I think I'm going to, I'm also adding another color in there too, that orange. Maybe I'll do a little bit there. So I'm going to try to bring some different colors now back into the So I think that's basically, I'm going to get some really good darks up here, because I do think we need a little more of that really, really beautiful dark. Reds, oranges, browns, touch of black, blue. There is going to be some more darks here and there. But I'm not going to go really too much. There's another bit down here, like that. I see there, and so I'm going to try to get this. So I'm going to try to do some finger painting here too, to kind of get like some round shapes. Like that. Some oranges, golds, reds. And then once we get these medium tonal values, then we can go in and do some darker darks to make some rock shapes. So that's actually good what we're doing right now. We're sort of getting in the middle tonal values. There's a lot of darks down here, so we can go right down to the bottom of the painting over here like so, like that, and we can start bringing those really darks straight down here. So we kind of stopped short over here before, so we just want to sort of pick back up again over here. And rocks tend to be, you see a lot of squares and circles. So if we do those kind of shapes, we'll be fine. And then there's some more dark shapes that go up this way, like this. And I think I'll just sort of leave this over here like this, kind of to fade out a little bit. Some splashing. Again, if you splash and you get a little bit on another section, don't worry about it. Blot it up with a clean tissue, though. Make sure you always have a clean tissue on hand, because what happens is, and I've done this many a time, I have the tissue that I dry my brush off, I'm drying my brush off all the time on a tissue in my hand. Then all of a sudden I forget myself and I go in and try to blot up paint off my, let's say, my sky or my ocean here, and there's all that paint on there. So that's why I always try to have a couple extra tissues like sitting nearby, so you know right away if you splash on a really finished part of your painting, you pick up your fresh clean paper towel or tissue to blot up something, because again, you don't want to take something that you've been kind of cleaning your brush off with and dry, taking paint off your brush with the tissue, and then you forget yourself, and then you tap on this and all of a sudden you have a big blotches of color on there. Just a thing I've always tried to keep an eye on for myself, because I know I've done it before. So I just want to mention it so you don't do that, because I've done that numbers of times. So, and again, that just splashed one a little bit up high there. There we go. So we're just working all the darks and the medium tonal values now for the rocks. And then I always kind of take my time and I look at the painting or the photograph and just kind of see see where I can add in some color. And some details, and I do a little finger painting here and there to get some texture going. And we will do some more rock shapes with some darks in just a little while. And a little bit of red, orange, a little bit of this darker dark to darken that up a little bit. And then we do some rock shapes here, some round rocks, little bits of rocks, larger rocks. You kind of mix it up. Larger rocks, a couple small ones there, little dabs of paint. That gives us a good feeling of rocks. Round dots of paint. Again, we're not trying to make every detail spelled out here. Just, you know, we do some rock shapes, round, small dots of rocks. Sometimes you'll see the rocks have lines. You can kind of put some lines in the and this is all pretty much in shadow. So I'll cover over those white bits of paper with orange and yellow to kind of blend that all in. This is on the shadow side, the rocks. I notice there's some purple over here. It's kind of darker over in this area here. Some purple, some of that blue. Makes it interesting. There's some darker darks too along the walkway and pathways up top here where the lighthouse is. There's some like ledges and things where there's shadows under the ledges, like that. So we want to capture that. There's a little bit of shadow there, some shadow here. And I think that looks pretty good. So I would say this is pretty much where you want to be when you're finishing up. The only thing I could mention is maybe we will go in and do a couple minor details, but they're important actually, so they're not really minor, but we're going to do some like more smaller details that you may not think right away you need to put in, but if we do put them in, it's going to look much better, the painting. So we're going to do that next. I'm just going to finish this last few bits of color like that, and I think that's plenty good. There's a little bit of And over here on this side, there's more shadow. And there's also the light in here. So we want to get that light there. And also a couple lines across. So let's tackle our shadows right now. There's a ladder over here, very small, but I will put it in like that. There's also, now at this point, I'm going to get the paint on the brush, roll the brush around to get a really good point on there. You can see that point on the brush. I'll dry off a little bit of that paint. This way I can get some very, very light lines, not too thick. This is where the balcony is over here. Like that. There's a balcony over there. And there's a window here. Anything else I can see? There's a shadow over here. I think we have it. Maybe there's a little bit of a dark line under here like this. And there's a window over here, I think. I'll put a little bit of yellow in there for the light. We could put a couple. Again, I'll get some dark on my brush, roll my brush around to get a point on there, dry off the brush just a touch a little bit, and then maybe we could put some of these railings in. Just a few little indications of them, just like that. A couple with a little couple uprights here and there, like that. And that really kind of helps to give scale to the picture. We'll do the same thing here. We'll just go across with a line and some uprights like this, some posts, and then another bit of railing there. Like that. Over to this section here too. And then maybe over here, there's some railing alongside these stairs. And we could get those stairs in a little bit better there. This is in shadow there. This might be a little darker over here. And I think that's good. So I will call this complete. I hope you had a lot of fun. We did a really good job here of just getting the whole process from start to finish completed. I tend to, if you have a little smudge or something, you can wipe it up or something, but I wouldn't worry about it too much. This is a composition, so we have fun doing it. That's the most important thing. And I think it looks good. There could be a few more details you put in, but it seems like the more times we try to put too much details in after a while, then it really starts to make the painting look too overworked. And so instead of doing that, let's not overwork it and start adding in too much more. I was thinking of maybe a couple highlights, but I think this is fine. I think a couple figures we can do. Let's do that at least. We'll do a couple figures here. We'll just use some of our medium tonal value like this, and some of the darker tonal values. We could use that, and some of this. We mix that up. Then we take our tissue, dry off our tissue, our paintbrush on our tissue a little bit, and then let's make a couple of figures. We'll make a figure down here, maybe over here. I just make a little dot for the person's body in like a carrot shape. A carrot shape is fine. that. And maybe another one up top here. It's kind of, up top is maybe, it's a little bit closer over here. You can see a figure over here a little better. Up top, those are doors there. So yeah, that's, my scale might be a little bit, I might have to make this figure a little bit larger, like this. That looks like more like a figure would be for the size of the painting. And the same thing over here. Put another figure up here, just some darks there. Maybe a little shadow behind them. Just like that. Maybe another figure over here. And that's good. A few figures in there make it way more exciting. It's interesting, kind of builds a little bit of a story into the painting too. There might be some people here that are working on the lighthouse. They might be the people that take care of the lighthouse. Maybe it's a tour and people are going around looking at the lighthouse, and it's like a there's like a tour going on. So the stories can be fun as we create our paintings too as well. So have fun with it all. Enjoy it. Thanks again for coming by and watching my videos and my tutorials. I really appreciate it. I love when everyone comments in the comment section. We have a lot of great people that put really insightful commentary in there that helps everyone as artists, especially people that are coming in new to our channel. When you put in some really good comments with pointers and helpful hints for a new artist coming up the ranks, that's great. And we just have overall fun and enjoy this whole process. So again, thank you for stopping by and painting along, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.